I am going to start this presentation off with a story about a young Korean woman named Hyeju that I got to meet earlier this year. Hyeju was a fresh college graduate. She had just finished her time at Seoul National University, and she moved to the US with her husband. Her husband was joining a graduate school program, and her plan was to get a job as a software engineer. Previously, she had been very, very successful looking for jobs in Korea. She got some great internships while she was in school. She had some solid work experience at some important startups. And so she thought it wouldn't be that difficult to get a job in the US. She thought that she could spend a couple weeks applying, interviewing, and 1 or 2 months max, she would have a role. Unfortunately, though, that was not the case. So Hyeju spent the entire spring and most of the summer applying to tons and tons of tech jobs without any success. Despite trying for months, she had never even made it past the first round of interviews. She was nowhere close to getting a job offer. She was growing more and more stressed, and this rejection was a huge shock to her because she felt like she was doing everything she could. But after months of struggle, her confidence was very low, and she was seriously questioning if getting a job in the US would even be possible for her. Eventually, she found me on LinkedIn, and one of the first things she said when we had our initial virtual meeting was that I had no idea getting a job in the US would be this hard. After that meeting, we decided to work together. And through working together, she learned this one essential skill that completely changed everything. About 6 weeks after we had had that initial call, she officially accepted an incredible software engineer job at a fast-growing startup here in Chicago. It was the exact role she had wanted. She was earning an awesome salary, earning more than Koreans with 10 and 15 years of work experience. And beyond that, her new job was 100% remote. She could work wherever she wanted and had the freedom to pretty much set her own hours. Since then, she's been traveling and visiting cities all over the US. The last time I talked to her, she was planning a vacation in Miami where she's going to be working and relaxing at the beach. And she just loves her new life now. It is completely different from what she experienced as a job seeker and what she experienced previously in Korea. Now, the reason that I'm telling this particular story is that when we compare Hyeju earlier as a struggling job seeker who couldn't even get past the first round of interviews versus her today, she is basically the same person. This was less than a 2-month period. She didn't improve her English level. She didn't get any additional certifications. She wasn't more educated. She didn't have any work experience. On paper, she was the same. The only difference between her then and her now is that she now understands how to sell herself, which is a skill that if you learn it too, it can change your life forever. So over the next 25 minutes, we are going to define what it means to sell yourself. This will be true for any industry and any job, especially when you are a job seeker looking for a new job. We'll talk about some major mistakes to avoid, mistakes that even native English speakers make that can seriously slow down your career progression. We'll talk about how to sell yourself effectively so you stand out and people recognize what makes you special. And we'll look at several real examples of selling yourself on LinkedIn, in your resume, in interviews, and through networking. My hope is that every one of you that's here with us live or who watches this recording later gains something valuable from this talk that is going to make a difference in your career. With that being said, let's start with with defining selling yourself. Selling yourself is the ability to communicate your unique skills, value, attitude, and beliefs in an impressive, persuasive way that's easy to understand, even to someone who barely knows you. To put it really simply, selling yourself is the ability to talk about yourself in a way that shows that you're special. This is an incredibly high value skill that most people are not very good at. So let's move to those 3 common mistakes, and then we will cover what you should do instead to actually get the career opportunities that you're hoping for. The first mistake that people make when they're trying to sell themselves in their resume, in interviews, and especially on LinkedIn is just listing a bunch of adjectives and opinions. 2 examples here. I'm an innovative, proactive, passionate designer. I'm a customer-oriented sales manager, highly skilled at B2B sales and sales strategies. I'm sure everyone watching this has seen LinkedIn profiles that are similar. And these aren't terrible, but there is a problem here. Anybody can say they're motivated, they're passionate, they're hardworking. But if there's no evidence, it doesn't prove that you actually are these things. Like, Logan, I could be the worst designer in the world, and I could still say I'm an innovative, proactive, passionate designer. I could also be the best designer in the world and say that. There's nothing here that really differentiates the bad from the good. Similarly, the second mistake is focusing only on your actions or your experiences. This is something I've noticed with Korean people specifically. There tends to be a large emphasis in your resumes and in your LinkedIn on how long you've done something or what you've done. I have X years of experience. I have various experiences doing all of these specific tasks. And there's nothing wrong with saying you have 5 years of experience. But just like with the adjectives, experience alone doesn't prove that you did that job well. We all know people with many years of experience who are not good at their jobs. And the final mistake, selling yourself problem number 3, is when you make very general, overall statements about yourself and your career and the company you want to work at. For example, here, I became a marketer because I love helping companies grow. I'd love to work here because you have a great work culture and your company values resonate with me. If we just look at this, Logan, I love helping companies grow. This phrase could be about a programmer. It could be about a sales manager. It could be about a data analyst. It could be about a logistics expert. This is so general and so unspecific that you could put any job on earth here and it would probably make sense. And when you're that general, you're not memorable. When we look back at the definition of selling ourselves, one of the highlighted words was unique. And to be a successful job seeker, you need to offer something unique that hiring teams and companies remember. So let's talk about how to do it the right way. Instead of adjectives, focusing only on your experiences and making these general statements that could apply to anything, share the impact and the value that you have created through your career. It's not necessarily about what you did or how long you did it. It's about the value that was created because you did it. Also, be unique. Share stories, examples, insight, and ideas that are only true for you, that other candidates couldn't say. And don't ever underestimate the importance of building good relationships. So let's talk about all three of these in a little bit more detail, and then we'll get to our examples. Like I just said, actions and experiences aren't nearly as important as the value that they created. It doesn't matter what your job is, whether you're the CEO or you're just an intern, every action you do at work has some effect on your company. Find that impact, find the positive impact, and sell yourself with that. So it's not just the action, it's the action and the value that was created from that action. So just instead of just listing your actions, mention how your actions attracted more customers, satisfied the customers so they stayed working at the or they stayed buying your products more, they gave you great reviews. Talk about how you satisfied other employees and helped the company run better. You cut a certain amount of cost, you helped a process become more efficient, you met deadlines. Adding numbers to these as much as possible is going to make you unique. And having worked with many Koreans on this, one of the most common things I hear is there aren't really any results or there aren't really any achievements related to my job. And I respectfully disagree. I think every job can find some way to, if you really think about it hard and you work with an expert who can help you, you can find some way to measure and quantify your success. But I think a common mindset when it comes to sharing your achievements is that it had to be 100% because of you. You had to do all of it. And that is not the case at all. If you were on a team and you played a small role in a project, but that project was really successful, you can absolutely talk about that. And when you do, hiring teams will understand. They will understand that it wasn't you 100% doing this giant multi-million-dollar project, but you played an important role and you contributed to this great result. That is still way better than having no result at all. So instead of just saying you have 4 years of experience and nothing else, really focus on what value did you create over those 4 years? Because that's going to get you the job, not the 4 years, what you accomplished during the 4 years. Here are just some examples. This would be specific for whatever your job is, but if I were an IT expert, some things I could talk about in my resume, on my LinkedIn, and in interviews would be the number of products and apps I've been involved in making. I could talk about the budget, the scope, or the size of any of these products so companies can understand how big and important my actions were. Absolutely find as much data as I can on the sales revenue, on the number of users for any products, on the user rating. So hiring teams recognize that the products I've been involved with are successful. In addition to sharing the revenue or the number of users, it's also great to compare your performance to any goals, averages, or previous results. Like if I tell you that I helped a company make $1 million, but last year they made $2 million, I'm not doing so good. However, if they only made $500,000 last year, and because of my help they made $1 million, that looks awesome. That looks way more impressive. So it can sometimes be really good to give that context. Compare your results to other numbers to show how impressive they are. You can also talk about any ideas or suggestions that helped your team or the company run better, the number of colleagues you've trained, or any history of deadlines you've hit. If you've been working on all these projects and you've never missed a deadline, all of that can prove that you are an expert in IT. And it proves it much more strongly than if you just focus on your experience alone. Moving on, though, It is great to talk about your measurable achievements, and you absolutely should in your resume while networking. But also, we're human beings. We're not just a list of numbers and data points. And this is where the power of storytelling really comes. When I started this presentation, as I was preparing it a few days ago, at first I thought I could just list some numbers. I could say I've helped 200 Koreans, I've reached X number of followers. I thought about listing the numbers, but then I realized it would be a lot more memorable to tell a single, unique, specific story. And I imagine the people watching this, you might not remember some of the details of this presentation 1 week or 1 month from now, but you're probably going to remember this story. The specific stories and the examples of your career are going to be what makes you stand out. So a general rule that I use with all of the clients I work with is say things that are unique to you. When you talk about yourself, share why you love your job in a specific way. That's not something that any other job could say. When you network and you're reaching out to other people, personalize your messages. Don't just copy and paste, I'm looking for a job, do you have any roles for me, and then send it to 200 people. All that's going to do is hurt your reputation and hurt your confidence when nobody replies to you. Take an extra 5 minutes to customize your message so people know that you wrote it just for them. And finally, when you are writing your cover letter, when you're sharing why you're interested in a company, and especially in job interviews, say things that are unique to that company. When you say why you want to work there, don't say something that could be true for any company. When you talk about why they should hire you, the value you could add, align that to that company's specific goals. And when you ask questions at the end of an interview, make sure that they are also unique. Instead of, I'd love to work here because you have a great culture and your company values resonate with me, which you could literally say about any company on earth, review the company website in detail. Don't just look at the homepage, go deeper than that. But also watch videos from the company's YouTube channel. Maybe even listen to interviews with the founder, the CEO, or whatever business executive you would be working under. As you're doing this research, find things that are totally unique to that company, because that is going to do two really powerful things. Number one, it's going to show that you are truly interested in working there because you've taken the time to do this research. And number two, it's going to show that you have a great work ethic, because not a lot of candidates take that time to prepare. If you do it, it's going to make you look really good. In addition to that, another thing that's going to make you look really good is just being a kind, likable person. You can have amazing not relationships. You can have amazing achievements, but if you're not kind, if you don't seem like a good fit for a company culture, and especially if you seem difficult or unpleasant to work with, you're not going to get many job offers. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It could be the most serious, cutthroat industry like finance. It's still going to benefit you to be a kind and likable person. So not just as a job seeker, but throughout the rest of your career moving forward, never be so focused on following a script that you don't listen to and connect with the other person. Logan, I don't know how many people I've coached for job interviews, but it's definitely more than 100. And one of the things that always kind of ruins people's impressions of you is if you're really, really trying to memorize stuff you wrote down earlier. You definitely need to be prepared, but when people are so focused on saying their script, they lose that human connection. They seem very robotic, and it's obvious they're saying something they memorized. It doesn't seem like they're speaking from their heart. They don't connect. They don't build any rapport with the interviewer. And all those things are so important. I truly believe that how you speak and how you present yourself in an interview is just as important as the words that you say. Another thing that I think is so important is show gratitude and show appreciation for everyone that you interact with. This is a trend that I have noticed with clients I work with, as well as people that just message me on LinkedIn wanting help with their job search. Many times, the people that struggle are the people who never say thank you. I think this is especially true when you're early on in your career. If you're a fresh college graduate, you don't have a lot of work experience to talk about. Your likability and your efforts to network and connect with people, that is what's going to make you stand out. And so, kind of going along with that, you got to do more than just send a resume. The international job market it's different than Korea. Hard work and doing your best. It's not clicking easy apply on 200 jobs on LinkedIn and then waiting. It is having a quality, targeted approach where you take that time to meet people, to introduce yourself, to do company research so you're the most informed candidate, and get people at your target companies to like you. A lot of clients I work with have made some incredible life-changing career moves. And almost every one of those started with some form of networking. So those were the basics. And let's look at some real world examples to really help you guys see the difference here. We'll start with a resume. This is an example of a professional summary. This is the top section of your resume. I believe it is the most important section because it's a hiring team's very first impression of you. This is a before. This is what one of my clients' resumes looked like at the very beginning before we started working together. So bullet point 1, I've initiated various projects on product service, marketing, and planning with internal and external partners in this industry. We'll just skip this one and go to point 3. Based on my strong business knowledge and compelling communication skills, I've achieved strategic partnerships with key players in the industry. And when we're looking at all of these, this is pretty much exactly what I talked about earlier. There's a lot of actions, there are some adjectives, but there's no value created other than maybe saying the partnerships, but still, it would be way better if they had a number there. So let's compare this to this. This is the after resume, and this is the same exact person. Notice how much better this sounds. Global marketing strategy and brand communication professional with 18 years of experience creating winning go-to-market strategies for multi-billion-dollar brands in over 30 countries. With that very first sentence, we get some scope of how big the projects they've worked on are, that they've worked in 30 plus countries. And moving down here, we have results proving that this person has led some really successful marketing campaigns. Helped an $800 billion brand increase their global online sales 20% year over year. That alone, that is like millions of dollars of results. Moving to this last point, led global launch of the world's first product, generating 184,000 units sold in first 5 months, surpassing launch goals 10%. So not only did they sell a ton, but for these giant global brands, it might not be 100% clear how impressive this is. So we also mentioned that she surpassed the launch goals, proving that she led this launch really well. When we just compare these, it is a night and day difference. If you read this, you probably would never guess that this person has done all of this amazing, impressive stuff. It's the same exact person, not selling yourself, selling yourself. And this is why I said it's even more important than your experience in English. Let's talk about LinkedIn now. For your profile, there are all these sections. We don't really have time to go over all of them, so we're just going to look at the very top. Just like with your professional summary, your photo, banner image, and headline are kind of like people's very first impressions of you. And looking at these two examples, if a hiring manager was looking for an engineer or a UX designer, there's really nothing here that would get them excited. She has a nice photo, but there's no banner. The headlines are kind of basic. And these look pretty unprofessional. Versus these, which immediately look a lot better. Same exact people here. Yeah, if you saw this guy, maybe you're not too interested in him as an engineer. But down here, we have a unique banner that perfectly matches his great photo. We have a headline that talks a little bit about the type of engineering he cares about. Same thing here. She talks about her beliefs as a designer. There's great personal branding that matches. And she doesn't just say UX designer. She says what she cares about as a designer and some great keywords related to her industry. Some stuff that hiring teams are looking for. Now we're going to talk about networking, which this is like my favorite thing to talk about because I think this is the most ignored area of job seeking, but I think if you do it correctly, it can be the most impactful. So let's imagine this. Imagine that you recently graduated from KAIST and your dream is to get a job in the US at a tech company. Let's say you're searching on LinkedIn and you find a Korean who also graduated from KAIST working at Google in California. And you send him a connect request. We're going to look at 3 different options, and let's notice the differences between these. Option number 1, you don't send any message at all. Option number 2, you say, I want to work at Google and would like your help, thanks. And option number 3, hi June, congrats on your recent promotion to lead engineer. I'm a fellow KAIST grad hoping to one day build a successful US tech career like you. Would love to have you in my network if possible. Have a great day. Not only is he way more likely to accept this, he is also much more likely to help you after getting a great message like this. Rather than clicking easy apply on 200 jobs, send 200 messages like this. That's going to that will be much more likely to result in the opportunity that you're hoping for. Another networking example. Let's imagine that you have your first screening interview with a recruiter at a company. And let's say that he's really friendly, he's warm, he makes you feel comfortable during the call. And so after that screening call, you send him a thank you email. Same thing, let's look at 2 examples and maybe which one could be better. Example 1, thank you for the interview. I enjoyed the time and hope to get a good result. I will wait for your reply. Option 2, hi Charlie, thank you so much for your time during our screening call today. I really appreciate how you made me feel comfortable and answered all my questions about the product designer role. Have a wonderful rest of your week. This one might honestly make him less likely to give you the role than if you didn't send anything. This is really nice. We took a moment to make it personalized, which is more important, builds that human connection, makes you look more likable. Last networking example. Let's imagine that things did not go well, and unfortunately, you did not make it to the next round. A lot of people would just move on, and so the no, the rejection that they heard, becomes a never, and they never get that opportunity. But if you position yourself the right way, that no can turn into a not right now. Here's how. Let's say Charlie was really kind and professional. So you send a message like this to his boss. You find his boss on LinkedIn and you say, hi, Sarah. I recently had a screening interview with Charlie Cook for one of Google's product designer roles. While I didn't get the result I hoped for, Charlie showed a ton of empathy and professionalism throughout the hiring process. As his boss, I thought I'd let you know he's a fantastic recruiter. All the best, Grant. Logan, I see you're giving the thumbs up. This is going to make a great impression on Charlie and on Sarah. It will make you look so good. And 6 months down the road, when they're looking for another product designer, they could think of you. But if you just ignore them and move on and don't build any relationship further, they're probably never going to think of you again. Finally, we're going to talk about job interviews. I got 2 specific examples for you guys that are actually from clients I've worked with in the past couple months. Example 1 was a software engineer who was focused on the humanitarian industry. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically like charity, sustainable energy, doing work that creates good for other humans in the world. We were talking about the question, why did you choose this industry? And her original answer was, I'm really passionate about helping people and want to make the world a better place. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with this. But I imagine if you're in the humanitarian industry, everyone says this. Everyone says they're passionate about helping people. And so I asked her some more detailed questions. When did you realize you're interested in this industry? What have you experienced in your life that makes you care about this? And those questions led to a much more interesting answer. Turns out she went on a mission trip in 2015 that was life-changing for her because it was her first time truly experiencing poverty. She went to a very poor country, and it was extremely eye-opening for her. She was an engineering student at this time, and being so passionate about tech, realizing the potential, she feels like the solution that's going to really help people all over the world who are experiencing what she saw on her mission trip. It's not going to come from governments. It's not going to come from the United Nations or even donating money. It's going to come from really, really smart people inventing things that pushes all of humanity forward, and she wants to be part of that. That is so much more interesting than I'm passionate about helping people. This is a completely unique story that none of the other interview candidates will say. And when the hiring team is reviewing everyone they interviewed, this will be an answer that they remember. Final example, a UI UX designer was working at a startup company, which was a social meetup for clubs and hobby groups. This was in Seoul. Basically, it was an app you could download that would show offline events in your area for a running club, a hiking club, a painting club, different groups. You could go there in person, make new friends, enjoy a common interest. It was really cool. And we were talking about an example of a career success or a positive achievement from my client's career. And her original answer was basically, I redesigned my company's app. To do this, I gathered some user data. It made the app a lot more user-centric, and eventually the users were really satisfied. It's great that the users were satisfied, but there's just nothing unique there. There's no real detail to show your expertise as a designer. So we talked about how she gathered this feedback, what she presented to the CEO that convinced him to follow her plan, and how the users were happy, how you could measure that. Turns out she had done a lot more than what it sounded like. So she actually went to several of the offline events by herself on the weekends. She got to know the users of the app directly. They all really liked her. And eventually she hosted kind of an informal interview at a coffee shop where she talked with tons of users about their experience and their feedback and gained a lot of really good ideas. She presented that insight with some suggestions to the CEO, who loved it so much that they had her lead the entire redesign process. From A to Z, she developed the prototypes, she tested everything, she optimized it, and her final app design doubled the rate of user growth. And it increased the user rating in the App Store from 3.7 to 4.5. So not only did the company grow a lot faster, people really were more satisfied with her idea. And all of this was from her. It was her own idea. Nobody told her to do this. This was her being innovative, creative, hardworking, and creating a solution that changed her entire company. And I know this client personally. This answer directly helped her get an incredible job. So moving on, got two final pieces of advice for you guys as we wrap up this presentation. Selling yourself is a high value, learnable skill. You can learn how to do this, but it's not going to happen in a couple of days. I think most people really underestimate how much time and preparation it takes to show your absolute best self in your job search. So please, for your own future, for your own mental health, don't wait until you've been struggling for months, been unemployed, and you're stressed and you're desperate to get help. Waiting or refusing to get help is going to cost you the most in terms of your time, in terms of your money, in terms of your perception of who you are. So that's kind of the negative or the serious warning. Let's end with a positive one. And that is to not limit yourself in your career. When I was living in Korea, I said earlier that I loved the people. I still do, but I did not enjoy the job. In 2018, I was extremely overworked, I was underpaid, and I felt totally stuck at a business English academy in Gangnam. If I didn't think that well of myself, if I felt like this was all I deserved and I wasn't capable of anything more, if I stayed there, my life would be completely different. It would be much worse. And even beyond myself, if I had stayed at that company, the world would be worse because I wouldn't have made anywhere close to the amount of impact that I've been able to make through starting my own business. I've been able to meet hundreds of people, connect with thousands of you on LinkedIn, have this webinar today. None of that would have happened if I just stayed here where I was in 2018. And I believe that all of you watching this, you have potential to do something amazing with your career. If it didn't matter to you, if you didn't have potential, you would not be here watching this right now. You are 100% capable and deserving of having a career you love. And through pursuing that, you will create something very valuable in this world. So if anything from today was helpful, I would love to stay connected with you all. I have tons of additional free resources on my LinkedIn. I post 4 or 5 times a week. I post YouTube videos a couple times a month. If you just watch all of the free stuff I have on my website and on my social media, that's equivalent to like thousands of dollars worth of career coaching. There are people I know in my LinkedIn network who have used my free stuff to get great jobs. That being said, though, nothing compares to my actual one-to-one coaching programs. I have 2 programs. The Career Accelerator, where I directly work with Koreans one-to-one through every single stage of their job search. This is more than just helping you with your resume. I will help you optimize your LinkedIn. I'll help you write every networking message that you need to send to people at your target companies. We'll develop your mindset. We will sell you through all stages of the hiring process. And I will do everything I can to help you create a life-changing opportunity for yourself. Beyond that, if you're already happy with where you work, or you just know that you need to improve your communication, I also help people with their business English. I have a program that goes way deeper than just vocabulary or grammar or memorizing a list of expressions. I'll help you truly communicate like a professional. So you're able to show your passion, show your confidence, and show everyone you work with how much of an expert you truly are. So if either of those sound interesting, I have a bunch more information on my website. I'd be happy to answer your questions on LinkedIn if you want to know more about the programs. But whatever you decide to do, whether we end up working together or you never watch another piece of content I ever create, I still want this to happen for you. Because as I said at the very beginning, every hardworking professional deserves a career where they feel valued. You deserve to wake up every Monday morning excited to go to a job that you love. And with the right strategy, that is 100% possible.